Hey guys, welcome back to Beat Sweets Farm. Today I wanted to tell you guys why we chose to get sheep instead of goats for our small 5-acre homestead. We live in Florida and we decided, I guess I've never been a fan of goats personally, just because I've reading and hearing about all the horror stories, because they are very bad escape artists. So I never really considered getting goats, maybe at one point, but then we changed our mind and we just happened to stumble across the opportunity to get sheep. So we didn't do too much research before getting them, but I knew from the beginning they were going to be a way better option for us than goats. Just because from what I did research, they're a lot easier to care for, and they're grazers. That's what they're meant to do. They're grazers. They're not like, I guess they call goats like scavengers, because goats like to get things that are out of reach. They like to climb things, and sheep mostly, for the most part, they stay on the ground and they just graze all day long. So we're very happy with our decision. We've had sheep, I think we got them a year and a half into our homesteading journey. Right now we don't have very many. We sold the lambs a few months ago. But we raise hair sheep because we do live in Florida and it gets really hot here. And I didn't want to deal with the wool sheep and having to shear them and all that. That can get expensive if you don't have the tools to do it yourself. So hair sheep, there's several different breeds of hair sheep, and what happens with their hair, they don't have actual wool. They have like a different blend of hair, and it falls off in the summertime. So they actually grow a thicker coat when it starts getting colder outside, and it sheds off all by itself in the summer. So you don't have to do absolutely nothing. Sometimes if they have a little clump still stuck on them that doesn't want to fall off, you can brush that out or cut it out with scissors. But for the most part, it falls all off. We don't have to do any maintenance when it comes to that. So that was why we decided to get hair sheep specifically. But a few reasons why we decided on sheep instead of goats. Like I mentioned, they're not escape artists. Our sheep have never tried to climb anything. I'll show you the type of fencing we have. We have like this regular field fencing that we installed ourselves with wooden posts, and it has like the smaller squares on the bottom, bigger squares on top, and then we have a line of barbed wire. That's mostly to keep like bears away or like the other wild animals. The sheep don't even reach up to here, but the sheep have never tried to climb up whatsoever. They do stick their heads through the squares to try to eat the stuff on this side, but they've never climbed, they've never tried to jump. I don't think they're capable of jumping that high. Whereas in goats, they would just hop right out of here very easily, just because they see like all the trees and brush out here. Might not be the case for everybody, but that's one thing I was afraid of with goats. And I've seen it happen, other people that have goats, and they've been able to leap through that fence pretty easy. Sheep, for the most part, I give them some grain, and it's really just to get them in at night, or when they have lambs, when we're milking. I give them some grain so they can be distracted while I milk them. But if it was up to me, I would just have them on grass and hay alone. But we do give them a little bit of grain just to get them inside this pen at nighttime, just so they could be a little bit safer. We have the 2 Pyrenees dogs that stay out here and guard the backyard. So I have the sheep in there just so it could be an extra layer of protection. So that was my second reason of why we chose sheep, because they are mainly grass eaters and we don't have to worry too much about supplement. They do need a little bit of like the mineral salt blocks. Obviously you need to have fresh water for them available, lots of shade, and then if you really want to, you feed the grain as part of their diet. But I feel like they don't really need it. We're not raising show sheep or anything. It's just for our little homestead. We raise the males mostly for meat, and then the females we use for milk, for our soaps, and just for our family's use. And then sometimes we sell the lambs like we did this time around. Hey, this is a ram, and the one over there is also a male, and our two females, Chloe and then Cookie is the white one back there. Third reason why we chose sheep instead of goats is because they need very minimal care with their feet. We haven't really had to trim their hooves at all. And I know goats, I think they have to be on a schedule for that. And with the sheep, we really haven't had to worry about it. They do have like a little third nail, I'm not sure what they're called, but it's like around their leg area. Sometimes the little nail part on that overgrows a little bit and it wants to curl up. And that's easily fixed with just some garden shears, snip it right off. But as for feet trimming, I think it's because they have all the space to roam around and wear down their feet. I've never had to actually do their feet. So I'm not sure if goats are more sensitive to that, where you have to do their feet, just like horses and donkeys. But our sheep are pretty easy maintenance when it comes to that. I don't have to worry about trimming their feet. Our sheep, anytime we've had lambs, Cookie and Chloe have both had lambs twice for us so far, and we've never had trouble with the lambs dying. So I think they're a lot more hardier than I would say goats, because a lot of people I hear have trouble with goats just dying or getting scars in the beginning, and our sheep have never had a problem. What's wrong, Cookie? I've never had a lamb die. We always keep the babies with the mom, so maybe that's why, because they're getting all the colostrum and all the milk they need in the early stages. But I've never had a problem with our sheep dying. Now, we have bought in lambs from other people before, and those have died. So I can see why some people would say that lambs die really easily, but I guess if you do it the right way and you keep them with their moms, they don't die really easy. We don't do anything extra with the lambs. We don't give them any supplements or like anything extra other than what mom feeds them. And they've thrived with us. Reason number 4, our male sheep, or male sheep in general, don't have a smell like goats do. I've smelled male goats before, especially when they're in rut, and it's just a nauseating smell to me. I could never imagine having that smell around me all the time or having to deal with that. It just, I don't know why I'm so sensitive to it, but it just grosses me out. And our males do not smell at all. They don't smell any different than what the females smell, even when they're in rut. So it's so weird. I'm not sure if it's this breed of sheep, but we're able to keep the males with the females, and we don't have to worry about the milk getting that tainted smell or anything like that. We don't have to deal with them having a gross smell when they're in rut. So that is a huge plus for me, because I can't stand that smell. I've smelled it in other farms and I just cannot stand it. Like, I'm standing right here and I don't smell anything. It's just fresh air. Sheep don't stink at all like goats do. Another reason I prefer sheep than goats is because the males specifically are a lot less tempered than a male goat would be. Goats can also be dehorned, but I feel like goat males are more aggressive and more dangerous when they're in rut. Our sheep, they're both males, full grown at breeding age or mating age, and they're very nice. I'm standing right here. He's not trying to attack me. A few times in the beginning he tried to headbutt us a little bit, but you just have to show them who's boss at that point. Grab a stick and scare them away and just show them that they're not allowed to do that. And I can trust these rams with my kids. I can trust them with visitors that we have in the farm, and they're not going to do anything to hurt us. And then if they do, I would just put them inside the pen, and they're not going to try to escape this pen. Technically, they can probably jump. This is like my waist height. They can try to escape this if they want to. This is even open right here where the dogs keep going in and out, but the sheep, they have never tried to escape that. So it's very easy to keep them inside of an area, a small area or a large area. They're not going to try to escape. And I can trust these males to not turn on us basically. And then I'm not sure if it's this specific breed or if these were dehorned when they were babies, because we've had rams in the past that had horns, but even then they weren't too bad behaved. Sometimes they used to try to headbutt us, and because they had horns, it's a little bit dangerous. But for the most part, these are very nice and they're very calm. They know that I'm not here to bother their ladies, and they know that who's boss too if he does try something. I also prefer sheep because it's a lot less common. Maybe it's just here in Florida, but there's a ton more people in Florida that raise goats compared to the number of people that raise sheep here. So that makes my products that I make more unique, because not everybody sells sheep's milk soap, but I have sheep's milk soap. And even if you look like on Etsy, before we got sheep, I looked on Etsy and looked at the number of people that sold sheep milk soap. There wasn't that many. There's a few vendors out there, but if you type in goat's milk soap on Etsy, there's just so many people, and it's so concentrated, the amount of vendors selling goat's milk soap. So I feel like sheep's milk is a lot more unique. It's a special product that you can't find it everywhere. Can't do much. Like I can't do anything with their wool or anything, but I guess if you wanted to have another way of making income from your sheep, then you would go for the wool sheep. It's just going to be more work having to shear them twice a year or once a year. I don't have to worry about that, so it's better for me. Another thing that goes along with the smell, we can butcher the male sheep even without castrating them. At this point, he's at breeding age. He's already had babies with the females, and his meat is not going to have a taste or a smell if we were to butcher him. We're going to keep him for breeding, but we are going to be butchering the small one over there because we're not breeding him. He's too little. I think he was a runt, so I'm not sure what happened with him. But we don't have to worry about any nasty, off-putting smell or taste with the meat. It tastes just as if you were eating lamb or eating a female sheep. I can compare it to beef. To me, it's like a red meat, and it tastes just like beef. It cooks up just like beef when you're making beef stew or steak, tacos. That's what I can compare it to. Sheep in general are also bigger animals than goats. I know there is bigger breeds of goats, but for the most part, sheep are pretty large animals, so they provide a good amount of meat. And if you're milking them, I don't have milk breeds. I know the milk breeds can make a lot of milk, but in comparison to a small little goat, the sheep make a lot more milk than the goats do. We only milk the one time a day in the mornings whenever we do have lambs, so we don't get a lot of milk, but I really just use it for soaps and like for our morning coffee and stuff, so I don't need a high quantity amount. But the more animals you have, the more product you'll get, so you can have more females. We just have 2 females, and that's what we're happy with right now as a small homestead. But if you want to have a larger operation, you would obviously get some more sheep. Sheep are very happy in whatever space you give them. I've kept them enclosed in this area right here for quite a while we were waiting for our grass to grow. And like I said, they never tried to escape. I had hay over here with them, and I would feed them grain twice a day. And they were happy. And then when our grass started growing, I start releasing them. They only go into the pen at nighttime when it's bedtime, and in the morning I release them, and they're just as happy eating grass. I have to feed them way less grain. I just give them a little bit of grain to get them in at night, but they're getting all their feed from just natural resources. Our total property is 5 acres, but I think this back property is probably like 3 acres, maybe 2.5. I'm not sure how it measures up, but I have the 4 sheep right now, and then when they have babies, Cookie should be due in November. We definitely have space for a whole lot more if we really wanted it. So you can keep them in any area. Don't have to worry too much about them seeing what's on the other side of the fence and trying to get to that. Where goats it's pretty much going to be a problem no matter how much space you give them, I feel like. I've never personally had goats, but just from reading everybody else's experience. Sheep have their own personality. Cookie, she is the loudest one. And then Chloe's a little bit more quiet. The males are super quiet. They don't make a lot of noise, but if you get a noisy sheep like Cookie, they are kind of loud. They're louder than goats for sure. But I like their sound. It doesn't bother me too much. Especially the little babies. They're so cute and they don't make a lot of noise at all. We just got a really loud mouth over here, Cookie. I don't think you've heard them on this video, but if you watch some of our other videos, you can hear how loud they can get. I think their vocals is just louder than the little noise that goats make. So it might not be a good option if you have neighbors really, really close by. But for the most part, they're quiet. As long as they have something to do, grass to eat, they're quiet. They're not bothering me. They're not asking me for food. So they're just hanging out. This is what they do all day long. And they're perfectly content. They are really good for weather because, like I said, their coat thickens in the winter time when it's going to get cold. So I don't have to worry about having a barn for them when it gets really cold outside. We do live in Florida, so it never really like snows or anything. But in the winter time here, I just keep them. It's the same routine. They stay in here no matter if it's cold or hot. So their body just naturally does what it needs to do. When it starts getting into the cooler months, their coat will thicken up a lot. This is what she has now, for example, is just like the undercoat. But then when winter comes, it's more of this soft, fluffy coat, and she'll be covered in it. It's like a whole new sheep. She still has her shredded coat, so you can't really see it, and I'll notice it with Chloe too. Her winter coat that she grows is like a lighter brown color, whereas now she's all black because she shedded that winter coat. Our sheep have definitely been one of the easiest animals we've raised, and they've just been super sweet. They're so good with guests that come and visit us. It's a good experience for everybody to have because I can let them free range while people come and feed them, hand feed them, pet them. I don't have to worry about anybody getting hurt. We did have a few incidents in the past where when we used to have the ponies and the donkey, they would accidentally nip some people's fingers, where the sheep have never really done that. And the sheep are a lot more calm when it comes to guests, because I've heard of goats in other petting zoos that try to eat people's clothes or try to eat their purses or whatever they have on them. And our sheep never really do that. I think that's just the goat's temperament. They just get too excited and they just want to eat everything. Sheep are not interested in people's clothes, so that's a win-win if you have guests coming to your farm. They're very easy to care for, and they just don't get sick and die very often. The only sheep that we have had die is ones that came from other farms, and we don't know what those people did with their animals before we got them. I just know that the sheep that we've raised have been perfectly good and never gotten sick. The only time we've had problems is when people on our farm days that we used to have overfeeding them. That's the only problem we've had in the past. When they get overfed, they tend to get diarrhea the next day, but then after that they bounce right back up. We just kind of put them on a diet for a few days when that happens, but we are changing things. I haven't been doing open farm days lately, but I do want to do some when it cools down in the fall time. So we're gonna have to change things, especially if it's gonna get super busy and we can't keep track of how much our sheep are eating. We'll have to change something so that doesn't happen. I also wanted to mention that specific breeds of sheep tend to be a lot cheaper than goats. I know goats can get pretty expensive, especially if you have them registered and all that. And here in Florida, the price range for like a lamb, a baby male lamb, I've paid about $50 when they're babies. The females run at about $150 to $200, so that's not too bad. I've sold lambs for $100 just because I sold them while they were younger, but a bigger female ram will probably run about 300, maybe 400, depending on the breed. But the males are super cheap to get started with if you want like meat lambs, or for breeding. You can find one for, the least I've paid for a ram lamb was $45 because I bought 2 of them. But they usually run about 50, sometimes 100. And the females are pretty cheap if you get them while they're young. They get more expensive when they're females. So I haven't really paid attention to goat prices, but I know some goats can get really expensive, the fancier breeds and the registered ones. Same thing with sheep too. They have some fancy breeds of sheep that like the 4-H and stuff, or the FFAs, the showing sheeps, those can get expensive too. But the ones that I have are just mixed breeds. They're not any specific type of registered, and they're just pretty much pets. We do eat some of the males, but for the most part the adult ones are our pets, and we just use them for milk every now and then to make our soaps. I'm going to finish up what I was doing in the garden. Just wanted to make that video before I forgot. And let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Watch the video before this one to enter our giveaway to win 2 of our sheep's milk soap if you're interested in trying that out. All you have to do in the comments of that video is write what is your favorite thing about the fall time, and that will enter you into the drawing. I believe it's September 14th or 17th that I have to do that drawing, so make sure you do that. So all you have to do is like that video and comment what's your favorite thing about fall, and you'll be entered for that. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Hope you have a good rest of your week.